I now hand the conference over to Mr. Achal Lohade from JM Financial. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Malika. Good afternoon, everyone. We welcome you all to the conference call with management of Prince Ice Fittings Limited to discuss the financial performance of Q4 and FY 2021 and business outlook. Presenting the management, we have Mr. Parag Chheda, the Joint Managing Director, Mr. Shyam Sharda, CFO, Mr. Anand Gupta, Deputy CFO, and Mr. Nihar Chheda, AVP Strategy. I now hand over the conference call to Mr. Parag Chheda for his initial remarks, after which we could move on to the Q&A session. Over to you, Parag bhai.
Yeah, thanks, Achal, and a very good afternoon to all. Thank you for joining us for our Q4 FY 2021 earnings call. Hope you and your families are safe and well. I'm joined by Shyam Sharda, our CFO, Anand Gupta, Deputy CFO, and Nihar Chheda, AVP Strategy. The presentation and the press release have been issued to the stock exchanges and uploaded on our revamped website, which I would encourage everyone to explore. I will be keeping my opening remarks in brief so that we can have more time for our question and answers. So before giving you a strategic view of the business, I would like to continue from my commentary during the December quarter conference call. As I had shared with you then, one of our key goals is to sharpen the organizational identity of Prince in the minds of internal as well as external stakeholders. It is our goal to make governance and sustainability a strength of the organization. We are air freighting oxygen concentrators from our international partners for 2 state governments of India. It is our duty as a corporate to support the oxygen crisis in India. Our team is exploring further avenues to help address these critical issues. ESG will continue to be a key pillar for growth at Prince. Moving on to the business, one of the key pillars of our strategy has been the initiative of winning in many Indias through distribution network expansion. The revenue and volume growth that we have been able to drive for not only Q4, but for the past 7 to 8 consecutive quarters is due to the focus on the distribution network expansion. Post Lubrizol, we have been able to engage with top quality distributors across the nation as they sense an opportunity to cross-sell PVC and CPVC systems with Prince, which is a unique proposition in the industry today. Furthermore, our focus is now on the secondary retail network. We have been the first one in the industry to launch Udaan, a loyalty program for retailers and plumbers. Due to this, we have been able to build a strong connect with so many retailers and plumbers across the country. We are ramping up investments in technology through management systems to strengthen Udaan. This will help us to increase the visibility and accuracy of plumber level data. These investments will also help us intelligently and use a data-driven pull system of sales rather than a conventional push system. I'm excited for these next level of marketing initiatives that me and my team are driving currently. Coming to the B2B segment, this is an area of improvement for Prince, as we have stated in the previous quarters. We are just a baby in the projects business, and there is a huge ocean of opportunity here. So while we continue to make investments in technology for the B2C vertical, in the B2B vertical, we are making investments in building the right team. The B2B segment is purely a relationship-based business, and has longer gestation periods. Furthermore, success in projects will always have positive ripple effect on the trade as well. Establishing and nurturing this segment via building the right team is a key priority for us in the next few quarters. We have also been able to build a very wide and comprehensive range of products over the past many years. We remain committed to adding new products across applications every year. This has made Prince an application-driven company and helps drive our brand identity in the marketplace. This year, we are evaluating newer applications that will not only further improve our range, but will also be lucrative at the gross margin level. These types of products could be a good complement to our existing product portfolio. You will very soon hear about these developments in the due course. These initiatives of market expansion coupled with product portfolio expansion were the pillars of our growth in FY21. While our performance in FY21 has been inspiring, our market share has a long way to go. We are not satisfied with where we are. The focus has to be on consistent winning in the marketplace over the long run. The opportunity is there and we are hungry to grab it. Thank you for your time and mindshare. I will now hand it over to Shyam Sharda, my CFO, to walk you through the fiscal performance. Over to you, Shyam.
Thanks, Parag Bhai, and a very good afternoon, friends. I'll be taking you through the Q4 FY21 financials. In this quarter, the company saw a robust revenue growth of 77% at rupees 761 crores, led by brand premiumization and favorable product mix, spanning through plumbing and SWR categories in Q4 FY21 compared to rupees 431 crores in Q4 FY20. EBITDA stood at 147 crores in Q4 FY21 compared to rupees 58 crores in Q4 FY20, a growth of 155%. EBITDA margin was at 19.4% in Q4 FY21 as compared to 13.4% in Q4 FY20, indicating an expansion of 605 bps. The four main reasons for this margin expansion have been the robust volume sales growth of 26%, driven by strong performance of plumbing portfolio. Higher volumes led to better cost absorption, leading to improvising in the operational efficiencies. Secondly, a favorable product mix like our plumbing portfolio, which has witnessed market penetration. Thirdly, an inventory gain of 30 to 35 crores during the quarter, driven by higher PVC prices. However, we have decided in passing some of this benefit with our channel partners, which helped in selling at higher volumes. Lastly, we continue to command a better pricing power given the market consolidation tailwinds. The profit after tax stood at rupees 97 crores compared to rupees 28 crores, translating to a growth of 246%. This was owing to an overall improvement in the performance at EBITDA level, aided by a sharp decrease in finance cost by 38% due to the complete repayment of long-term debt. Commenting on the key balance sheet parameters for the quarter under discussion, would like to state our gross debt as on 31st of March 2021 is at rupees 85 crores compared to a gross debt of rupees 261 crores as at March 31st, 2020, which is a sizable reduction of rupees 176 crores from the previous year. We have repaid our long-term outstanding debt and have become long-term debt-free as on March 31st, 2021. Cash on books from internal accruals stood at rupees 103 crores, excluding IPO proceeds. So we are net cash positive, including IPO proceeds, by rupees 17 crores. Commenting on our working capital, our debtor days was higher than the previous year, given higher sales in the second half of March, which is an industry norm. This was a strategic call we took, keeping in mind the uncertainty of the lockdown. We wanted to have product available in the market. Also, keeping in mind the anticipated decline in PVC pricing, we wanted to have capacities running high to process and sell as much products as possible. There has been a sharp decrease in inventory days and a better payables management that has led to an overall working capital decline. The working capital days is at 37 days. Commenting on our return ratios, we have improvised on ROC, which is at 27.1% in financial year 21, vis-a-vis 20.7% in financial year 20. The return on equity ROE stands at 23.6% in financial year 21, vis-a-vis 18.2% in financial year 20, and this increase, considering that the company has recently raised equity, is what is to be considered. The quality of the balance sheet still remains our topmost priority. With this, we would like to open the floor for questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on the touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. We would like to remind participants that you may press star 1 to ask a question. The first question is from the line of Jigar Shah from ICICI Securities. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity and congratulations to the management for the good set of results. My first question would be, sir, what would be your inventory gain for the full year? You mentioned Q4 30 to 35 crores. What would be for the full year?
So thank you, Jigar. I think, like you correctly said, quarter 4 inventory gain has been around 30 to 35 crores. We wouldn't have the annualized number ready as of now. What I can remember is December quarter was around 20 to 25 crores. So for H2, it would be around 50 to 60 crores of an inventory gain. We could get back to you for the annual number.
Okay. And my next question would be, what would be your PPVC piping growth in Q4 and full year?
So, Jigar, as you are aware that it's an industry norm. We do not give polymer-wise breakups. But I understand why you're asking the question. What we can give you is some direction on that.
Okay.
And I will talk in terms of application. So in FY20, building material is a combination of plumbing and SWR was around 66% of the top line, and the balance was agriculture, which includes irrigation and borewell. And in FY21, this number of 66% of building materials has gone up to around 69%. So there's clearly our focus on plumbing and SWR, reflected in the performance.
Great. And lastly, do we see agri mix going forward declining?
I'm sorry, could you say that again? Agri.
Whether our agri mix will be reducing further in coming years?
No, I think what you must realize is while the focus is definitely on plumbing and SWR, last year taught us that agri is a segment that may not be as value added at the gross margin level, but it's something that you cannot ignore. If I look at my September quarter,
the kind of resilience that we posted in the volumes was because of agri primarily. So we are very clear that, our range across PVC and CPVC, across plumbing, SWR and agri is our biggest differentiator in the marketplace, and we have to continue to encash our range in the market because distributors are very happy with the ability to cross-sell in Prince. So we will not ignore any segment. We will just grow faster in plumbing and SWR relative to irrigation.
Okay. That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Kamlesh Dadlani from Oman India Joint Investment Fund. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. I have just two questions. One is in relation to cash flow. So as of December 31st, 2020, I understand company had a net cash position of around 37 crores, excluding IPO proceeds. That has moved to around net cash position of around 17 crores as of March 31st, 2021, excluding IPO proceeds. So can you just walk us through how the cash position has moved during Q4? I would presume substantial amount of operating cash would have been generated. Was it used for some capex in the new plants? That is one question. And second is in relation to the outlook for Q1 of FY22, given the second wave of COVID, how the company sees it is getting impacted, and a broad comparison between Q1 of FY22 and Q1 of FY21, given that around similar time COVID outbreak has happened. So these are my two questions.
Yeah, Kamlesh. So in terms of the utilization, what we have done is during this period, of course, a lot of amount has been used. One is towards the repayment also of the loans as well. And also we have, paid advances, which is like 125 odd crores. And also there has been some increase in terms of the repayments. So cash outflows in terms of the balance outstanding today stands at around 17 odd crores, which earlier was 32 crores in the previous period. So there has been a change, and it is getting reflected in the numbers as well. And
broadly, what would be the operating cash flow for Q4?
So in operating cash flows, it is incremental of 115 odd crores, which is getting reflected in the cash flow statement, and that is getting added to the kitty.
Okay.
Yeah. And as far as your outlook for the first quarter is concerned, I think obviously there's, we are only halfway through the quarter, but as the first 45 days, everyone is aware there has been a national lockdown in most markets. We are not immune to a lockdown. So of course there is a tepidness in the market. The one big positive relative to last year is that our plants are still functioning. They are not maybe functioning at the ideal capacity that we would like them to, but at least the plants are functioning. There is no inventory pile up and just zero production. So that's one good thing relative to last year. Of course, there has been a slight tepidness in the sales for the first 45 days, but I think the last year is the biggest testimony that a couple of bad months or one bad quarter does not hamper the fiscal performance at a annual basis. So we are hoping for the best.
Okay. Thank you, and best of luck for FY22. Great performance for FY21.
Thank you, Kamlesh.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Pritesh Chheda from Lucky Investments. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity and congratulations for a good set of numbers. Nihar, I have one question on the profitability part when you express it as a per kg or per ton basis. So there's a marked shift when we look at the FY21 number and when we look at the exit number for quarter 4 as well. And even if we adjust for the inventory gain, it's a marked shift from what we have been achieving in the past year. So the past year, the EBITDAs have been at about 12 rupees a kg. If you could help us understand what should be a reasonable assumption going forward in terms of the EBITDAs or the profitability part of the business. That's one question. Second question is on the Flowguard tie-up. Post Flowguard tie-up, how do you see your CPVC business shaping up? Does it mean that there is a fair bit of possibility of a fairly accelerated growth and hence accelerated volume growth overall for Prince Pipe? And my last question is, what is the status of the Telangana plant now?
Sure. Thank you, Pradesh. I'll answer the questions sequentially. So the first question I think was on margin. What are the drivers and what is the outlook? So allow me to give you a slightly detailed answer here. There have been three primary drivers of margin expansion for us. One has definitely been inventory gains. The second has been a product mix improvement, clearly 66% coming from building material now to 69%. So product mix has definitely helped us improve the gross margin. And the third one is a superior pricing power. And this is something that we have been consistently, talking about. And I would like to give you a slight more color on the pricing front. And allow me to give you a detailed answer here. For the past 8 quarters now, we have been aggressive in passing on, price increases to the channel, especially on PVC. What we realize is that price increases not only expand our margins, but they also help shape our brand power. Our aspiration is to be the market leader. Market leadership, is not always measured in terms of market share or profitability, but also by the brand equity that we enjoy in the marketplace. Today, we understand that in order to be recognized as a market leader, we need to behave like a market leader. And pricing action is one such direction. And I will explain what I mean with an example of a month like March, where Prince was the first one to pass on an increase in CPVC systems, and the rest followed us. We are obviously not leaders in the CPVC segment, and hence it was not an easy call to take, but we took it, and it has been well accepted. In fact, I believe that these aggressive calls are contagious in the marketplace. Even, distributors, retailers, competitors, distributors can feel these things. Such actions help us become a preferred brand amongst brands. We may not be the first one to increase prices every time, but we have started in that direction, and the intent is clear. Also, I would like to say that, we cannot unilaterally be increasing prices overnight. This has been a gradual curve of a few years now, which now we are supporting with major investments in branding across the country, especially post the Lubrizol tie-up, and major investments in technology, especially like management systems. Like Parag Bhai said earlier, we have a long way to go. This is just the beginning, and we need to be able to consistently do such things over the long term. So that's as far as, margin is concerned. I think your second question was on Lubrizol.
Just here on the margin side, there is a big difference between what we earned last year and what exits have been, or what annual number also has been. So, in your opinion, what should be a better margin profile assumption in your mind?
So, we have always been conservative with margin guidances. We will continue to be conservative. I don't think there is, we would not want to speculate on what margins look like. If you're asking for a projection, we would continue to be conservative with, 13-14% EBITDA margins, and then we're happy to sort of, we know that we have enough and more drivers for margin expansion going forward. So I'll keep it at that. The second part is on the Lubrizol tie-up. See, we are definitely very bullish post Lubrizol. Not only on CPVC, but definitely Flowguard, overall improves our brand power and brand, equity in the market. And CPVC is going to be one place where we want to disrupt the marketplace. And like I said, we've had an inherent strength in PVC all these years. Now with CPVC coming into the fray, distributors get to cross-sell PVC and CPVC, which is a unique proposition at Prince. So definitely in B2C, for Lubrizol, it's going to be an easy win for us, which we are keen to do. And we need to build on B2B, which is also going to be a key driver for CPVC. But to answer your question, yes, FlowGuard should mean stronger growth prospects for the company over the long term. It's not going to happen overnight, but over the long term, we are definitely bullish on growth. It's going to happen only with a combination of B2C and B2B. And we have different opportunities, different challenges in each segment. And your last question was on Telangana. So
one clarification here. Does it mean that we had very insignificant CPVC volumes before the Lubrizol tie-up?
No, we did not. It was around 18 to 20% of our top line, and we are keen to take it forward going ahead. And as far as our status of the Telangana plant, I think this plant actually could not have come at a better time with the kind of consolidation that the marketplace is seeing. I think this will be a great opportunity for us to grab onto this market share. We have started the first phase of injection molding, as you would see in our investor presentation as well. It's a very small capacity that we have started with, but at least we have got the ball rolling. And there will be, in the next 2 quarters, a ramp-up of capacity. And over the next 2 years, at least, this will be taken up to 50 KT per annum of installed capacity. So I hope that gives you a clarity on.
It will start showing you the logistics or the freight cost benefit.
So, that's obviously going to be a benefit, but I think the immediate benefit is going to be in terms of volume growth. We have consistently said that North and West are markets where we are strong. South is a market that we believe that we have been laggards, and competition has outpaced us in South India. So that's a market we need to penetrate better, and we are the first ones to put our hands up and say that. So immediately the decentralization benefits won't kick in because we might be sharing those benefits with the channel to ramp up market penetration and to ramp up utilization of capacity. And in the long term, it would be a driver for margins on the logistics front as well.
Thank you very much and all the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ravi Dharamshi from ValueQuest. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Congratulations on fantastic set of numbers. I just had one question on the CPVC price trends. If you can just throw some light on what have been the drivers of this trend and now what is the outlook looking forward for the next 6-12 months?
Yeah, thank you, Ravi bhai. As far as CPVC pricing, CPVC is chlorinated PVC, and the biggest raw material to make CPVC is PVC. So with the kind of sharp rally we've seen in PVC pricing, CPVC is bound to follow. It'll be with a slight lag, obviously, but we have taken, as an industry, I think there has been 2 rounds of price hikes. One in the December quarter, one in the March quarter. And I think going forward also, prices should remain firm. Of course, now with the slight uncertainty of the lockdown, the timing could vary, but I think prices should remain firm in the medium term.
Right. And how is our supply chain compared to vis-a-vis some of the other players? Are we able to procure the material? Is that a challenge, or now with the new lockdown and everything imposed, are we still able to procure the material that we need?
Yeah, that's a great question actually. So a couple of things here. One is that over the past year, actually, if I look at FY21, there has been, all of you guys would be aware, there has been tremendous disruption for supply chains across the economy and for the piping industry as well. And one of the benefits for us was that we had a local source. Lubrizol has the compounding unit at Dahej. So we have a very strong supply security and a consistency in supply security, which a lot of the brands did not have over the past year. and some of the bigger brands as well, suffered because of this. But we were in an extremely dominant position as far as supply security was concerned, even in the face of, the lockdown and then the supply chain issues after that. And this is true for the current quarter as well. We are in a strong position. And to give you a slightly bigger picture here, Lubrizol is investing a lot of capital in India, and as you would be aware, they are tying up with a local company to put up a huge plant in India for CPVC resin, and they are now going to be backward integrated. So now we are going to have the combination of the Flowguard brand with a local capacity, and I think that's going to be a very formidable combination. And whatever aggressive growth plans we have for CPVC over the next not only 1 or 2 years, but 3 to 5 years, we do have that muscle in terms of supply security, where we are now associated with the strongest player with the most dominant supply security. So this puts us in good stead for the next, a very long-term period of time.
What would be the timeline for this plant that is coming up along with Grasim? Approximate timeline?
So I don't think there's anything official out there, but my best guess is a couple of years at least.
Couple of years, okay. And just last question from my end. We did the best gross margins, best EBITDA margins, best return ratios, and best operating cash flows and everything. But a lot of it is because of inventory gains and pricing realization growth. So my question to you, what is a sustainable level of margins that we should be looking at, and what is the sustainable level of realization? Of course, there is a element of product mix change also and operating leverage, but if you can just give us some sense of over the next 3 to 4 years, what is the level of margins and we should expect?
So I understand why you're asking that question. Realization and inventory gain is going to be a function of movement in PVC, which is tough to comment on, especially for a year, horizon of 3 to 4 years. We think PVC will continue to remain firm in India, especially that we are, because we are an import-dependent country. But in the long term, I think a sustainable horizon margin profile, like I said, we are going to be conservative with guiding, 13-14%. But we have enough and more levers for margin expansion, which I just highlighted a few questions ago, which are product mix, pricing power, which I've given a detailed answer on, and operating leverage benefits. So I think there are enough and more drivers for margin, but we'll be conservative with 13-14% guidance at the EBITDA level.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, and wish you all the best.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Achal Lohade from JM Financial. Please go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, congratulations for the great performance. My question is, in terms of the agri or the irrigation led demand, how is it seeing postponement by the purchaser, by the farmers? And, let's say theoretically, if this lockdown continues for another 3-4 weeks, do you see the season getting washed out, or you can have the demand coming back?
So if I actually look at the March quarter, we have not done too badly on the agri front as well. We have grown in agri as well. So definitely, yes, there has been a postponement of demand, and the kind of orders we are usually flooded with in Q4 and Q1, that has not been the case for agri. In these months with agri, often it's, how much ever you want to sell, you can sell in agri. That's usually the situation, but that's not been the case because of, PVC pricing and other uncertainties in the marketplace. But we still continue to grow in plumbing and agri as well. Coming to the current quarter, see, it's difficult to comment on whether the season would get washed out or there would be a postponement. I think we can all just hope that it would be a postponement. But I think the bigger play, of course, is on the plumbing and FWR, where we are confident of demand being robust post the lockdown, measures being, cooled off. Agri is tough to comment on. But I think the important takeaway is even in March quarter, despite the tailwinds of PVC pricing and uncertainties in the marketplace, we have grown in agri as well.
Great. If I may ask this, in terms of the total industry, what has been the PVC consumption decline in your opinion? And within that, how much would have been the agri decline and the plumbing decline or, growth at the industry level and for us?
Sure. I'm able to give, there's no official number, obviously, because the year has just concluded, but our best estimates talking to, our suppliers and, distributors, etc. I think industry degrowth at the PVC volume level should be around 15%. And in that, I'm sure the degrowth has been higher in agri relative to building material. 15% was our best estimate. This is not an official number, but just whatever market intelligence that we keep.
And would that be like 40-50% a decline for agri, or it could be less than that, in your opinion? I know it's hard to guess, but still, being in the business, you are better off in terms of commenting on the same.
To be honest, no, I don't have that much of a visibility in terms of how much it would have been. But yeah, I can't quantify it, but I agree would be worse off than plumbing is our best guess.
And would it be possible to indicate what is the PVC volume growth or decline for us for the full year FY21?
So, like I said, it's an industry norm not to give polymer-wise data, but like I said at the beginning of the call as well, plumbing and SWR put together was 66% of revenue in FY20. This has been taken up to 69% because of a conscious effort, and especially post the Lubrizol tie-up. We have seen a good traction. So CPVC has definitely been a good contributor to growth in the FY21 time period.
Right. And is it fair to comment if the margins in the gross margins in the CPVC are at the similar level what it was before the tie-up, or have they further improved?
So gross margins have not improved in CPVC because definitely there's an increase in cost post the Lubrizol tie-up, which we have partially passed on to the market, and we need to look at the EBITDA level. We are severely underpenetrated in the CPVC space. We would have 10% or lesser than that market share versus players who have 25 to 35% market share as well. So we are keen to gain that operating leverage and make up that gap as much as we can. So the EBITDA level is what we need to look at for the CPVC business.
Got it. And just last question, with respect to the DWC business and the storage tank, if you could give, how has been the year and how do you look at it for the current year or medium term?
Sure. DWC actually has not done too badly. We have posted a volume growth in DWC as well. It's been a high double-digit growth in HDPE, which is DWC pipes. Of course, we have the benefit of a lower base in FY20 kicking in. But DWC, we have done well, especially in terms of the strategy, not only in terms of numbers, where we've not only now rely on institutional demand, but there has been a fair amount of demand that we have been able to generate with the private projects as well. And this is something we have been working on for 2 years, and it's sort of paying its dividends now in FY21. But the base is very small. We are nowhere close to the numbers where we had started off with for DWC, given the market potential of the cement pipe, RCC pipe industry. So a long way to go in DWC, but moving in the right direction, which is a good surprise for us as well. Storage tanks, I think, give us a few more quarters. It's still a baby. So whenever that reaches a substantial amount, especially in terms of percentage of top line, we would, help you start tracking that as well. But it's slightly early days for tanks.
Got it. And just a bookkeeping question with respect to CapEx for FY21 and for FY22 and 23. What kind of number one should work with, including your maintenance CapEx?
So
from a cash flow perspective. Yeah.
We usually have around 40 to 50 crores of maintenance capex, upgradation capex, debottlenecking, etc. Still a decent chunk of the Telangana capex remains to be done, which would largely be done over this period. And then we need to. Today we have the strength of the balance sheet to expand capacities further if the marketplace is supporting us. So we are still in the process of discussing our capex plans in this uncertain market. You can't be just making now these plans once a year. You have to be doing this every quarter with this uncertainty in the marketplace. So we're going to keep it dynamic. We do have the backup of a strong balance sheet, which allows us to be flexible to look at further organic growth. Possibility of inorganic growth also is there in such a consolidating market. So we're keeping options open, and we're monitoring this on a quarterly basis. So it's tough to give a guidance as far as exact capex number is concerned.
Understood. I'll stop here for any further questions. I'll stop here for any questions.
Thank you, Ajay.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rajesh Kothari from Alpha Accurate Advisors. Please go ahead.
Congratulations, Parag Bhai and the entire team for the great set of numbers. Sir, I have first question is in terms of the total brand investments, how much we would have made in FY21 as well as in fourth quarter? And this brand expenditure, when you say it includes the higher, used to distribute, I'm talking about including that number.
ATL and BTL. So this brand expense includes ATL and BTL. It does not include the incentives that are given to the distributors. That is not there in this. And this has been I think it's a good question because it's been a similar strategy as the December quarter, where we were slightly, I would say, opportunistic in investing in the brand because we were aware of the inventory gains that we were going to have. In December quarter, it was a call that we took in the middle of the quarter, around November. But for the March quarter, we had a fairly good visibility. So even before the quarter started, we had a strong strategy discussion with the branding team to make these investments. Because if we are going to take aggressive pricing action calls, etc., we cannot do that without investing in the brand. And especially post Lubrizol, we have identified a list of priority markets which are low-hanging fruit, where we are doing very well and enjoy market leadership for PVC, and we want to cross-sell CPVC in those markets, and that would be possible only with heavy investments in branding that we have taken.
So would you like to disclose the number? Because you mentioned that, good part of the inventory gain, even during last quarter conference call, you mentioned that, you are basically reinvesting into the branding and such initiatives. So what would be the set amount for the fourth quarter?
So for the fourth quarter, actually, it's been a significant ramp up. We usually guide at around 2.5% to 3%. But this time we have, gone even about 4.5% of the net sales. And, Udaan has really helped us here to get a very good accuracy of plumber and retailer data. So our branding campaign has been a lot more targeted, especially in, North India and West India where we are very strong.
Sure. So as and when basically, as the price may come down, the inventory gains are of course one-off, but then probably brand investment also you may rationalize them, right? I mean, that may further have to cushion the impact of the, inventory losses or the reversal of such gains.
No, absolutely. We have to be agile with our strategy. We'll continue to invest 2 to 3%, but this sort of opportunistic things we will do only in quarters which are strong. But even in lean quarters are basic, 2% I would like to invest in branding, considering it's a long-term exercise. But this sort of lavish investment would be done only in strong quarters.
Sure. And sir, second question is, Parag Bhai, you have mentioned that, there is a further scope of new applications which can further drive the margins higher at the gross level. Can you a little bit elaborate on this strategy?
Sure. I would like to keep, I would like to let the actions speak louder than words. You will hear in due course in this next financial year itself. And we are not very keen to get, a lot of new products, maybe just one or two products, but then we want to nurture that very astutely in terms of generating the demand, in terms of creating the channel. So it's not going to be a lot of new products that we get left and right, but just maybe one or two products every couple of years. And we have built a new team for that. There's a new product development team, which is separate from my normal sales team. And the function of this team is to get new products, which again will not be major in terms of contribution to the top line. But, they will be niche products. And we are studying what, the more developed economies are doing and sort of trying to replicate that here. So, you would hear about these in the next few quarters.
Great, sir. I think great performance and great steps to further putting the strategic building block. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much and wish you all the best.
Thank you, Rajesh.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Vivek Tulsyan from Newmark Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi team. Just wanted to get some sense on this other expenses which has gone up from 50 crores to about 91 crores. What line item? So I understand part of it is advertising, which question. But is there any other line item which has seen a big jump in this?
No, Vivek, you are spot on. The increase is mainly on account of the branding expenses, which has gone up during this quarter exceptionally high. Yeah.
Okay. And Shyam, in the opening remarks, you mentioned that the inventory gains of 30-35 crores that we've seen has been kind of passed on to the channel. So, is there a number? How much of this would have got passed on?
So, Vivek, it's hard to quantify that in terms of what has been passed on to the channel. But it's easy to calculate what our inventory gains has been, but it's hard to monitor in terms of how much has been passed on. But if you look at the volume growth that we've posted relative to what industry has been, there's clearly we've done something different, and a part of that was to pass on the gains to the channel.
Right. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So your question is answered?
Yes.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Sneha Talreja from Edelweiss Securities. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks a lot for taking the question. And congratulations on a great set of numbers. Most of the questions were answered. Just two more from my end would be related to the current PVC price movement. So we've seen downward revision happening in India. So just wanted to understand from you, is it more to do with the global phenomena or is it only India specific? And what kind of inventory losses can we expect going ahead? Or do you expect sharp fall in the prices in the coming months, or what's your outlook here? That's the first one.
Yeah, thank you, Sneha. Yeah, I think that's an interesting question. We have definitely seen a slight reversal in PVC as of yesterday. So your first question was, is it India specific? Yes, this one has been India specific. PVC pricing currently across the globe continues to remain firm. So right now it's more to do with the Indian market and the kind of uncertainty that we're seeing in the trade today. So this is India specific, which leads into my second answer in terms of, do we foresee it to be as steep? Maybe not. Of course, it's hard to sort of predict these things, but what we understand is that it's not going to be the fall is not going to be as sharp as an increase, and PVC normal levels may not ever come back to what the initial normal levels are. So that's our sort of best estimate at this point of time.
Sure. That leads me to my second question about, we've seen domestic prices declining. So what sort of competitive intensity are we currently seeing? Is that the case that, they would be operating only on the imported prices, which must have not gone down that much? So is there any scope of gaining market share again from the smaller players?
Yes, I think market share, I think the consolidation story continues to play out. And the more these sort of uncertainties, of course, they are very unfortunate, the reasons of these uncertainties, but it makes it a very tough environment for smaller players with weak balance sheets to perform and sustain themselves. So there's, it's going to lead to further consolidation, which I guess is a silver lining. Yeah.
Sure. One last one, if I may just squeeze in. Given that, you've already said a lot about the Q1 demand panning out, it's been on the weaker side. Is there any way you can quantify? I believe, last quarter you had given some amount of quantification last year during the same times that, how April was panning out, how May was panning out for you all. Is there any way we can quantify how much, for example, April or May till now would have been down in comparison to March quarter itself, or maybe YOY? YOY would be a wrong comparison, but let's speak about Q-on-Q in that way.
So Q-on-Q, of course, is not going to be the right comparison either, because quarter 4 has been very robust. And, international lockdown, we're not immune to a lockdown. Even if you look at retailers around us in Mumbai, they are, people who used to function for, half the day are now functioning only till, 11 a.m. So we're not immune to this lockdown, so the market is tepid. I'll stay away from quantifying it for now because a large part of the quarter still remains to be seen. And April anyway usually is a lean month in this industry. So let's hope for the best.
Sure. All the very best to you, Nihal. Thanks.
Thank you, Sneha.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Karan Bhatelia from Asian Market Securities. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Yes. Sir, now that the PVC prices are now looking southwards, how are our dealer and distributor reacting with respect to their inventories?
So I don't think southwards is the right description here. I think it's a slight correction, and there may be further slight corrections, but we don't see the fall to be as sharp as the rise, not anywhere close to that, because like I said, global PVC continues to remain tight. This is just India specific at this point of time, and it really is a function of the lockdown and the crisis, which is obviously hard to predict.
Right. Sir, moreover, I was referring to the dealer inventory.
Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Bhatelia. So there is a slight disturbance coming from your line. Request you to mute your line while the management answers your question.
Sure.
So yeah, as far as sentiment is concerned, it's obviously not the best because of the lockdown and because of this uncertain nature in the marketplace. So if dealer inventories are slightly high, because like we said at the March quarter, it was a strategic call that we had taken to have as much product available in the marketplace, even in the times of lockdown when maybe logistics could be hampered. So I think channel inventory should be moderate, and it differs from market to marketplace. But I think overall should be around moderate is my estimate based on whatever interactions I've had with my distributors.
Right. And sir, one last thing, we've been focusing more on the pricing power, as you mentioned, in the opening remarks. So if I have to have apple-to-apple comparisons with industry leaders, how much discount or premium do we have on our PVC or CPVC portfolio?
So you can, I'm sure you can sort of reinforce this from your channel checks as well. But there is no more, sort of major discounts. Of course, this differs from geography to geography, but that gap has been minimalized in certain markets where, at par, certain markets were at discount, and certain markets were also at a premium, which was maybe not the case a couple of years ago. Pricing, again, I will say that this cannot happen unilaterally. It cannot happen overnight. We have to find the balance of pricing power and being market friendly and market sensitive. So we continue to find that balance along with our marketing and finance teams on a monthly basis.
Right. Yes, thanks. That was helpful. That's it from my end.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Utkarsh Somani from Moneybee. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir, and thank you for the opportunity. So my question is on the distributors. So in 9 months till December, we had added 250, out of which 100 were in quarter 3. So in quarter 4, how many have we added?
So in quarter 4, I think it has been more than 50 distributors that we have added. I will continue to talk about the fact that number of distributors is not as important for us. What's important is the spread. What's important is the quality. We have consistently maintained that we want to work with distributors who are good paymasters, who are investing in infrastructure, and who are hungry to grow. Today, Prince is very hungry to grow. And unless we are associated with distributors who are not hungry to grow, it's not going to be a long-term partnership. So for me, number of distributors is not as important as the spread and the quality of my network, which is something we are working on structurally improving.
Great. Sir, and also, can you throw some light on the geographical, spread of these distributors? So if we want to tap the eastern market, I think that is also a focus.
Sure. So North and West is our main market, and we have a strong primary presence. And now, as we try to become a preferred brand amongst brands in North and West, focus is more on retail penetration, using technology, using our loyalty program to touch more and more retailers, more and more plumbers every day. And we are making those investments in technology to improve the accuracy of this. And as we mentioned in our remarks, that focus is on selling intelligently, not just sales but marketing. On South, we have been weak, like I mentioned earlier in the call. In a few geographies, we are strong in South, but a lot of markets we are not that strong. Be it Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Kerala. These markets, competition is way ahead of us. So a lot of work remains to be done. I think this is just the beginning, and a lot of new distributors have to be added. A lot of branding has to take place. We have to participate in a lot of key projects with good developers in these markets. I think all that is going to be now further facilitated with a local manufacturing footprint of Telangana, which is an integrated facility for pipe and fitting. So I think a lot of work needs to be done in South. I think Central also is a similar market where I think we have not justified market potential. Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, that market we are hungry to grow. And East India is fastest growing market for the industry. Prince is one of the top 2 players in this space, and we have actually driven the change from GI to PVC in these markets, being one of the early movers there through our outsourced manufacturing. And in East, in certain pockets we're strong, certain pockets we need to add more distributors. So I think, I hope that gives you a color on what the geography mix looks like.
Yes, that was very helpful, sir. And sir, on the working capital cycle, so our working capital cycle was around 27 days in the month of December, which right now I believe is 35, 36. So what is the sustainable level of working capital days going ahead?
See, the December quarter number was not sustainable because that was driven by a decrease in inventory.
Correct.
Even this one has been led by a decrease in inventory. 40 to 50 days is a sustainable number. In the long term, I need to improve this. If you look at my peers, they are doing a better job than I am, and we are on the WCM front, and we are keen to further improve that. We have been able to do that over the past 3 or 4 years, and a lot of work remains to be done over the long term as well.
Okay, sir. Thank you. That's it from my side, and all the best.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Dhaval Shah from Girik Capital. Please go ahead.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, please.
Yeah, hi, sir. So first of all, very happy as a shareholder to see the initiative taken by you towards the oxygen concentrator. It's a great work.
Thank you.
Sir, my question is broadly again on the pricing side of the PVC, CPVC. So our fourth quarter average sales per ton was roughly 180 rupees, if I'm not wrong, around 180, 183 rupees. And FY21, I think average is 150 rupees. Now, and this FY20 was 123 rupees. So how should we see this realization? You said you don't see too much of pressure for the current year, and with your improving sales mix, and there is also some pressure in the current quarter due to India specific region. So how should we see this number?
Yeah, it's a tricky one because it's not that easy to predict polymer pricing, especially in such an environment. There has been a slight cooling off in that very sharp rally that we saw.
Yeah.
So maybe a little bit more cooling off in this quarter. But, like we saw last year, post the lockdown, there was a tremendous tightness in the market again. So if that is replicated this year, it could go a very different direction. And if the lockdown extends for some more period of time, there could be further cooling off. So it's challenging for me to give you visibility there. I understand why you're asking that question, but I don't think we will move back to the levels of PVC that we saw, 18 months ago.
Okay. So what is the current cool off? You said there is a slight correction in the PVC. So how much percentage would that be?
So around 4 rupees per kilo. And PVC is around 130 to 135 rupees per kilo.
As on today?
Pre-increase. So, yeah.
Sorry, so 4 rupees, so 130, 135 after the 4 rupees drop?
Before.
This is before the 4. Okay. And this is PVC, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And now your EBITDA per ton equally is at around 35 rupees. So that is also at the lifetime high right now.
So this is the operator. There is a disturbance coming from your line, sir.
Okay. Sorry. I'm saying your EBITDA per ton is also at 35 rupees. And you continue to guide at 13 to 14% EBITDA margin?
Yeah, like I said, we are being conservative. We are being consciously conservative with the guidances. And we'd be happy to deliver accordingly ahead of estimates.
Got it, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Mitul Mehta from Lucky Investment Managers. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir, and congratulations on an excellent quarter and great execution. Hope that you keep delivering better and better as we move ahead. Sir, my basic question to you is, right now we are again passing through difficult times as far as COVID is concerned, and most of the states have declared lockdowns, and our urban market share remains elevated. So, considering all the headwinds, is it possible to guesstimate what sort of volume growth are we preparing for FY22? And over a longer period also, if you can give us some sense on, what sort of volume growth we can estimate as we travel along, it will be better to get some understanding because, a business looks fairly volatile from the pricing standpoint of view because, we've enjoyed a very, very inflationary scenario and these results are clearly the reflection of the inflation in the system. But given the fact that when a lot of these reverses, we may find it hard to kind of get some understanding on your EBITDA per ton or sales value.
Yeah, see, as far as volume growth is concerned, we do have a very small market share today relative to our peers. who are doing a lot better market penetration. So we have come a long way. I think we've consistently chipped away and have gained market share, especially over the past 2 or 3 years. And even pre-COVID, real estate was not doing very well overall. You guys would also know building materials would not be doing that great either. But in the piping industry, there have been a few companies that have been able to differentiate themselves and drive that sort of a volume growth. So of course, with the uncertain environment, it's hard to put a number on it. But we are in capacity expansion mode. That's why the capital raise was done. And whenever there is going to be any upswing in demand, we are going to be there to grab it. If I look at the bigger picture, the past few decades of Prince, one of the reasons for growth has been that we have always been having a vision for demand cycles and setting up capacities regularly with a gauge for demand and taking advantage of any upswings in the demand trend. So with Telangana plant coming through, if the demand goes up, definitely we are in a place to capture that incremental market share. Hard to sort of comment on a specific number of volume growth. And, like we said initially as well, the opportunity is there and we are hungry to grab it. As far as margins are concerned, you're absolutely right. This is I think it's a combination. It's a function of the efforts and the execution of the company coupled with the inflationary environment that we are seeing on the polymer front. And there would be, whatever we see, we have to see on an annualized basis. In PVC, typically there are going to be some quarters of inventory loss, some quarters of inventory gain. And on an annualized basis, if you're, in the black, you should be happy. We're not traders. We are manufacturers, and our top priority has to be to keep the channel satisfied. So that's our perspective on this at least.
And sir, we've seen companies, the peers, I would rather say the peers, and, we've seen the market cap journey of some of the successful companies in our industry. And, so obviously PVC along with CPVC, and then, coupled with adjacent category that some of the companies have demonstrated. So do you believe that, some point in time we would also kind of get a little more aggressive on the inorganic opportunity? Because alone PVC and CPVC would, take us to a particular level of growth. But beyond that, we would have to look beyond PVC and CPVC. Or you think for next 3 years at least the plate is full and, we can continue to grow in the PVC and CPVC?
So plate is never full. We are always hungry to grow. In the past, we've had risk appetite to have inorganic growth. I think we've been one of the first companies to actually have inorganic growth. That was within piping when we acquired the two plants from Chemplast Sanmar in 2013. But you're right, that was within our existing category. I think till now the outlook for the family, for the senior management has been. We know pipes, we like pipes, we understand manufacturing and distribution models of piping. So it's been a very focused approach to the core product. And we have expanded within the products to newer and newer applications, which we will continue to do. As far as, other products, I think, so the market cap journey that you talk about for, the peers, I think is a function of many things. One of them definitely being the kind of expansion that they've done in the product portfolio. And the second, thing that I would commend them on is consistency. They've put their head down and have a quarter-on-quarter performance in the capital markets. So we do understand the value of that, and we do intend to have a consistent performance quarter and quarter over the long term as well. As far as expansions outside of pipes is concerned, maybe not immediately. Over the long term, we would continue to explore what the right strategy for the organization is. But for the next fiscal, nothing outside piping.
Great, sir. Thank you very much, and wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Utkarsh Nopani from Haitong Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Good afternoon, everyone. Sir, I have few questions to ask. First is, if we see our quarterly sales volume growth momentum on a 2-year CAGR basis, it has slowed down. So in the past 2 quarters, it was around 9 to 11% rate, which has come down to 2.5% rate in the current March quarter. What is the reason for the same? And a connecting question, can you also give some sense how the demand has panned out in the first half of the current June quarter over June 2019 quarter period? Though you have mentioned that the demand is tepid at the moment, but if you can give some sense whether the demand has moved up or down over 2019 period. Yes, sir.
So, I mean, I understand the 2-year CAGRs that you're looking at, but if you consider FY21 with industry maybe degrowing by 15% in volume, and we are posting a 4% volume growth in FY21, I think that's a pretty heartening result for us to see. So obviously it's a function of the sort of market and the uncertainty that's been there, despite which we have not only posted value growth, which of course is a function of the realization, but we have posted genuine plain vanilla volume growth in FY21 as well. Despite industry maybe having a double-digit negative, growth. So that's obviously going to be the reason for that. And as far as June quarter is concerned, like I said, we are not immune to the lockdown. Sales have been tepid. It's 45 days into the quarter approximately. 45 days remain to be seen, and let's hope for the best. And I think the last year is the biggest testimony. One tepid quarter does not mean one bad year. So that's what our focus has to be on.
Okay. And so second question is despite increase in our sales volume, we have not seen the benefit of operating leverage over the past 3 quarters. So by when operating leverage benefit is expected to start kicking in?
So Utkarsh, we have seen tremendous operating leverage benefits in this FY21 period. A lot of that has been invested into branding. If you would, sort of normalize that, there would definitely be a very strong operative leverage benefit. In fact, I would say operating leverage has been the top 2 or 3 reasons for the margin expansion that the company has posted.
Sir, just again coming to this question, if I see whatever the improvement in the EBITDA per kg which has happened over the past 3 quarters, that is mainly led by higher gross profit on a per unit basis, if I see. But if I see for the employee or for the other cost, and I do the comparison over FY19 number, it has moved up. It has not moved down. So that's why I was just asking by when the operating leverage benefit is expected to come in, despite we are posting good volume growth.
So Utkarsh, what you need to understand is, yes, the gross margin expansion has been one of the biggest reasons for EBITDA margin, not only for Prince Pipes, but for the entire industry. Coming to operating leverage, I will maintain that there has been a tremendous improvement in operating leverage for us. Why the number is maybe not up to your expectation is because margin significantly gone up for us. We constantly maintain branding to be 2 to 3% of net sales, whereas in quarter 4 it has been, almost, double.
No, sorry, sir, just to interrupt. Even if we do the adjustment, then also our other expense on a per unit basis would come to around 17 rupee per kg, whereas historically we were doing it around 14 to 15 rupee per kg.
So I would have to get back to you on exactly. I wouldn't have those numbers as a ready reference. Happy to get back to you after this call.
Sure. Sir, third question is on the capex part. We have spent 146 crore in FY21. Can you please provide the breakup between the maintenance capex, the brownfield capex, and the capex which we have done on Telangana plant?
Yeah. So, first, in terms of maintenance capex, it could be in the ranging between 40 to 45 odd crores, and also it is spread over the various plants. And we have also done almost 174 odd crores overall investment. Telangana has been one of the main one. There has been also capital WIP, which is getting captured. So overall, it is like 40 to 45 crores of a maintenance capex. Apart from that, all the things have been capitalized for the current financial year.
Okay, and so like of this 174 crore which we are planning to spend on Telangana, so you mean to say we have spent roughly 100 crore in FY21 and the remaining only 74 crore need to be spent over the next 2 years, whether I'm understanding correctly?
No, so in terms of the overall cost, we have spent close to almost like 90 odd crores for Telangana as of now. The remaining amount, total amount invested is around 184 crores for Telangana. We have spent 94 crores and around 90 crores is further to be spent over the next 2 to 3 quarters.
Okay. And how much we are planning to increase our capacity, say, in FY22 over FY21?
So Telangana is going to be 50 KT of installed capacity. Currently, we're at around 250 KT approximately of installed capacity. So right there, you have almost a 20% increase to be able to facilitate the further volume growth. And if the market supports us, in the coming years, we would be able to grab that market share.
Okay, great. And sir, lastly, sir, like as we are net cash positive and expect to generate a pretty healthy cash flow, are we thinking of putting up a greenfield facility in eastern region, or we would wait till full ramp up of Telangana facility before taking up any new project?
So we can't wait for a full ramp up. I think that's an interesting question. We can't wait for a full ramp up. I think we have some milestones that we have set internally. And once we hit those milestones, we would look at a plant, whether that would be in the central region, eastern region. Those discussions are happening internally. But we have some milestones, some roadmap that we have set out for the marketing team. And once we hit that, I think definitely the strength of our balance sheet allows us to put us in a formidable place for capacity expansion.
Okay, and can you give some sense like by what volume we want to reach before taking up this project? Any sense, maybe 30,000, 40,000 and?
I would stay away from quantifying it for now. It's early days.
Okay, thanks a lot, sir, and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ashish Poddar from Anand Rathi. Please go ahead.
Yeah, many congratulations to the team for fantastic performance quarter on quarter. So my just one, it's not a question, obviously it's my opinion that while we are sounding too positive on our growth prospects, I think we are too conservative on our margin guidance. So is there any specific reason why are we so conservative on the margin?
You're right. I think we're consciously conservative. If you see a lot of the industry players also are guiding in that range of, I would say, largely 14 to 17% is what I know. And with our investments in branding, I think that's a fair estimate. And if you look at the past year, we have continued to be, since the listing time, we have been very conservative and, have been happy to sort of beat those estimates. So I think we would like to make that a habit.
Okay. Thank you so much and all the very best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rahul Agarwal from InCred Equities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. Thanks for taking my question. Am I audible?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I had three questions on the industry. Firstly, on the competition side, obviously it's great to have the shift happening from unorganized to organized and a lot of consolidation happening. But, I was more focused on the organized competition and, the sense I get from companies which have announced results till now, to name a few, Supreme, Apollo Pipes, stuff like that. A lot of people working on CPVC, PVC because the demand prospects looks great from an Indian context. What I wanted to understand is the right to win for the industry. So basically, thing helps in the industry is to have plants across all regions in the country, across all corners. The SKU, the variety that you can have is great. A combination of CPVC, PVC, PPR, SDP is great. deepening presence and distribution dealers across the country helps. I think, the broad commentary for all leaders, who've been already executed on this, and upcoming players like Prince, who's done great guns over the last 2 years, and smaller guys, everybody's saying the same. I wanted to understand from you, your experience, and, maybe Parag Bhai can add on it. Top 3 reasons, a right to win for any company to have a great presence on a PVC side or a CPVC side over the next 10 years. That's my first question.
So I think a lot of my answers you actually taken in your question. I think definitely a focus on distribution or definitely a focus on manufacturing presence. And I understand everyone is working on this, but there's no secret sauce of success. There's no obvious moat or barriers to entry in this business. I think you need to do a lot of small things correctly. We need to do the same thing that everyone is doing, but differently, and do it better, and then let the numbers speak for themselves. A couple of things that I think we're doing differently. One is investing in a very strong professional team. Despite having 3 generations of the business involved together, it's obviously exciting times for us in our growth journey. But from earlier time, we have invested in a professional team, and the reason I'm harping on this is that we've hired from the best of organizations. My sales head is from Jaguar, our branding head is from Pidilite. We've recently appointed a COO who is from Hindustan Unilever and Volvo Eicher. Our deputy CFO who's recently joined us, who's on this call, he comes with a very rich experience from ACC Cement. So the point is we want to benchmark ourselves against these top sort of gold standard companies and whatever best practices that they're doing, and implement that for us in a very exciting time of our journey. And a lot of these investments in people have been done. And the phase 2 of this is we need to give the people the freedom to now invest in technology, to improve our distribution, to improve our ability to sell intelligently in the market, which I think a lot of, this is pretty unique to the industry today. But a large part of it is not doing different things, but doing the same things differently, and then, hoping for a consistency in performance.
So would you imagine that all the leaders, today, as well as including Prince, as well as the upcoming guys, they'll distribute 10 to 15% volume growth is what we steady state look at for PVC, CPVC going forward next 5 years, just an example. The fighting between, capturing this incremental market share and the new business supposed to come from government infra spend, and better housing stuff in India. Do you think everybody gets their own market share? Everybody has a reason to survive, and how does this market share distribution work? Between larger players only I'm talking about.
So, see, the game for us is how do we become a preferred brand amongst brands. So we've shown the ability to constantly have an incremental volume growth relative to the industry. I would not like to, really speculate on these things. Let the chips fall where they will. We are a tough competitor, and we are hungry to grow. And we would want to be one of the fastest growing companies like we have over the past few years now. Let the best man win.
Got it. One clarification I wanted on the CPVC side. So since you're tied up with Lubrizol, do you guys buy compounds from them, or you buy resins which are imported outside, or the Lubrizol tie-up is only for FlowGuard and you make your own compound buying resins importing? How's that?
It's an exclusive tie-up. We buy the FlowGuard compound from Lubrizol.
So purely from an industry perspective,
hello.
The line for the current participant got disconnected, sir.
Okay.
The next question is from the line of Bharat Mukhi from Big Vision Investing. Please go ahead.
Hi there. Congratulations on a great set of numbers. I wanted to understand, do you see the same, do you foresee the same kind of volume growth over the next 2, 3 or 4 years? And what are the, potential challenges to achieve this kind of growth?
So, yes, definitely we want to we are hungry for volume growth. The opportunity is there, and we feel like we're in a unique position with the capacity expansion coming on and the network expansion that's going on. We see ourselves at the forefront of being the beneficiary of this increase in growth, and we would like to think that this sort of growth profile would continue. The focus has to be on consistent performance. So we need to keep our heads down and be consistent on the growth.
Okay. And is there something you're doing differently than your peers to get this kind of market these kind of market share gains?
No, absolutely. A couple of things I just highlighted on for the previous question. Having a good complement of a strong family presence across 3 generations and a professional team. So the family can now focus on strategy and risk appetite. Deals like the Lubrizol deal and other strategic initiatives, while the day-to-day operations are driven by the professional team who has a level of discipline and efficiency of doing the business. So I think we have a good, and I'm trying to give you different reasons than the usual reasons of a multi-location manufacturing network, strong distribution network across urban, semi-urban and rural India, investments in technology for our loyalty program, which gives us differentiation with our peers and getting a better visibility, a better connect with retailers and plumbers. So I think it's a whole host of small things that we need to do differently to be able to drive this.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ankit Kumar from Systematix. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, thank you. In initial comments, Parag mentioned and stressed more on project businesses and our focus on projects. Can you please elaborate much more on the project and our focus area? How are we preparing ourselves, and overall size, if you can quantify in India? So that will be it. That's the first question. Hello.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, now, yeah.
Yeah, so Ankit, I would like to say that we are very small in the B2B business, and there is a lot of scope of growth in the B2B, which we are working towards, especially post Lubrizol, because the brand Lubrizol gives us a seamless entry into the B2B segment. I would like to state that B2C is going to be the core of our business model, and a major part of the revenues is going to come from B2C. We are not going to move away from our strategy for so many years. But B2B is somewhere that we would like to scale up. Today it's a very small % of our overall top line, which we need to take up because we have not justified that space today. What we are doing is investing in the team who is experienced, who is from the industry, who has a very good connect with consultants, developers, contractors, architects, etc. A very different skill set is needed for retail selling and project selling. Project selling is much more technical. It's much more relationship based in a different way than retail. And the gestation periods are higher. In retail, it's a very quick win. In projects, you need to invest in technical selling, in building those relations, getting your brands approved. So this B2B ramp up is not going to happen overnight, but the intent is clear. We have started working in that direction.
In which line item, probably we have actually capitalized every penny which we received from print marketing, or if yes, then in which line item we have included that?
Hello. Yeah. So every penny what was to be received by Prince Pipes from Prince Marketing has been received, and that of course has been accounted was because that was in money transferred into cash and bank balance.
Okay, that's it. And lastly, our ambition to remain debt free, is it? Can we stay that way? That's a fair statement to make, or not on a market?
So what we are saying is, of course, the long-term endeavor is to be absolutely debt-free. Today we are debt-free from long-term perspective. We don't have a long-term term loans borrowing as of now. Working capital borrowings are still there. And our endeavor is basically, whatever we can optimize with our current existing banking lines and scale up our operations. But if the need arises, we will, further continue to borrow from the banking limits as well.
And if I can just add to that, Ankit, I think today we're in a place in a consolidating market with exciting growth prospects. I think we have demonstrated the ability to be, net cash positive and have a very strong quality of balance sheet. We will not, we don't want to over-lever, of course, but we will, we're not going to be very conservative with debt. If the opportunity is there, I don't mind setting up additional capacity to take advantage of the marketplace, but it's going to be a very, very conservative decision.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, guys. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Syed Arafat from Reliance ADA. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir. Thanks for taking a question and thanks for spending extra time on phone call. Sir, my first question is on just industry. As you said, the industry is down by almost 15%. But if you look at the top 4-5 players, organized player like you guys.
So this is the operator. There's a lot of airy disturbance coming from your line, sir.
Hello, I'm audible, sir?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thanks for taking my question, sir, and congrats on a great set of numbers. And sir, thanks for taking extra time on con call.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, sir, my question is on, let's say, you said the industry is down to almost 15% in FY21. But if you look at, let's say, top 4-5 player has almost reported, let's say, you guys reported 4% volume growth, while other players also reported very flat kind of numbers. So is that say that unorganized player is down almost 30% in FY21? Is that right to assume that?
So it's quite possible. I think if I look at unorganized, even some of the smaller organized players, they are facing tough times. Whether it's to do with their liquidity position, their ability to provide product into the market, their diminishing brand value in a market that is becoming more and more brand conscious. Definitely, I think high double-digit degrowth for these players is very possible.
I just want to understand what's your, let's say, next 3-4 years, let's say, ambition, where you want to go, where you want to look yourself in the next 3 to 5 years. You can guide on that.
So we are going to guide conservatively, Arafat, but internally we are hungry. And we want to be a aggressive player and a preferred brand amongst brands. It's tough to give long-term guidances, but our past performances speak for themselves, and we need to focus on replicating that consistently.
Fine, sir. That's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of SK Patel from SK Patel Investment Advisors. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to know what is our capacity utilization, who are our main competitors, what is our market share, and return on capital employed and return on equity.
Our capacity is around 250 KT of installed capacity. The production capacity would be lower than that. That's in terms of our capacity. Our sales last year in terms of volume was around 138 KT. Our ROC has been 27% in FY21 and ROE has been approximately 23 to 24%.
Who are our main competitors?
Our main competitors would be Supreme, Ashirvad, Finolex.
Why our installed capacity is 250 and we utilize only 138 approximately? What is the reason for underutilization?
So, yes, definitely it's on the installed capacity, it's an underutilization. But what you must realize is there's a difference between the rack capacity, the rack rate, and the actual effective production capacity. there is which is only around 70% of the actual installed capacity. And even on the production capacity, we can go only up to 80-85% utilization. And the reason for that is, if I look at an extruder, I'll go slightly technical here. The throughput capacity is calculated if my highest size of product is running 24/7, 365. Whereas the running size may be a smaller, diameter of pipe. So the throughput automatically is going to reduce. Hence that gap in the installed and production capacity.
No, sir, then what is our utilizable capacity and what is utilized? I think that is the right comparison. Am I right?
Sure. So utilizable capacity would be around 70 to 75% of our installed capacity.
Right. And this return on capital and return on equity, do you think we will be able to maintain in the coming years also?
So over the long term, yes. So we need to account for, we cannot compare to, we cannot give guidances on the short term, but this has been a significant rise. I think it's already at a very strong number today. So over the long term, the goal should be to maintain this.
No, sir, long term means 1 year, 2 years, 3 years.
So long term is 3 years and plus, and I think what is more important to understand is, in spite of we coming out with an IPO 1 year or maybe 15 months back, we haven't been able to further increase or improve on our both final parameters on return ratio, which is ROC and ROE, and our long-term vision, of course, for 3 years hence is that it can further improve in times to come. So.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this was the last question for today. I would now like to hand the conference over to the management for closing remarks.
So thank you to all the participants. Thank you to Achal for hosting the call. Thank you for your time and mindshare, and stay safe, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, everyone, and thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. On behalf of JM Financial Institutional Securities, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.
Range of things.